So the big question is, how hard is law school? And this is a hard question to answer because the answer is very subjective. It's going to depend on the type of person you are. Fortunately, I have a 5-factor quiz in this video that you can take to determine whether or not law school is going to be hard for you. Stay tuned. Welcome to Law Venture. My name is Jarrett Stone. This is a channel devoted to lawyers and future lawyers. So if you're new, I recommend that you go in the description, you check out the links to some freebies that I know will be super helpful. And if you're not new, then I'm sure you can recognize the fact that I'm not in front of my typical blue background. Instead, I decided to change it up a little bit by sitting on the couch in the living room, and mainly because this is going to be the therapy couch as I talk about how hard law school actually is. Well, for most people. And that's kind of the big question with this particular video. Is law school going to be hard for you? Because if you're watching this video, you're most likely contemplating the idea of going to law school, but you want to know what you're getting into. So let's just dive in and start with this first factor. The first factor really comes down to standards. The question is, what are your standards going to be if you go to law school? Everyone will love the idea of being the top grade in all their classes for all the semesters, for all the years, and then just being the #1 student in the class when it comes to graduation. But in reality, that's a super hard goal to achieve. And if that's your goal, fantastic. But at the same time, you have to understand that if that is your goal, it's going to require a ton of work because everyone in law school is gunning for that position, that top grade in that particular class. So you just need to keep in mind that if your standards are a little bit lower, then naturally your law school experience is going to be a little bit easier. Because if your standard is, okay, I want to have a really good grade, maybe not the top grade, but a really good grade in classes that I'm passionate about, that's one thing. But if your standard is across the board, even the classes I don't enjoy, even the classes that I find really hard, I want to be able to have the top grade in that class. Well, that's going to be super difficult because if a certain area of law doesn't naturally come to you to where you can learn it and you can pick it up very quickly, that's going to require more time. So just something to keep in mind. If you have these high standards, then it's going to result in more work, and more work means it's going to be harder. And that's just a simple truth about law school. Okay, now let's move on to the second factor. The second factor is discipline. At the end of the day, if you're disciplined, you're gonna be much better off than if you're not. Because if you're not disciplined, the work's gonna pile up. Everything you should have been learning, these very hard abstract concepts, are gonna be piling up, and you're gonna be looking at Mount Everest at the end of the semester with all this information that you have to stomach, digest, and you're just gonna be so confused, you're gonna be so lost, you're gonna be so stressed out. It's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be a good time. You're not gonna enjoy it. So what you need to do is be disciplined during the entire semester, stay on top of things. It's much better to be maybe a little stressed every single day, unless you're coming in for your first year to where you're just naturally gonna be super stressed every single day. But at some point, the stress kind of goes down because you get used to the lifestyle, because that's what law school is. It's a lifestyle. It's not a full-time job. It's a lifestyle. How many times did I just say lifestyle? Too many. But anyways, my point here is you would rather be disciplined, stay on top of everything, because if you can do that and you can just be a little stressed each day, then when it comes to your final exam at the end of the semester, you won't be nearly as stressed as the guy who wasn't disciplined, who was cramming for 2 weeks or 2 days and is just sweating bullets because he or she has no idea what he or she is doing. And then that person who's not disciplined is going to have to try and make up for the bad grades the following semester, the following years by being extra disciplined. And that's just stressful. You don't want to do that. So with this factor, look inward and determine whether or not you're a disciplined individual, or if you can be a disciplined individual, because you're not born disciplined. That's a decision that you make. That's a lifestyle that you choose. So figure it out. Are you a disciplined individual? I don't know. You're gonna have to answer that question yourself. In the meantime, let's move on to the next factor. The third factor is your natural ability to learn. There's no denying that some people actually learn better, they learn faster, and they retain more information easier. If you're one of those people who's on that really smart scale, go ahead and throw some IQ points my way. I'd be happy to have them. Now, if you're on the other end, you're gonna have to keep in mind that your path in law school isn't going to be impossible. It's just gonna be harder. You're gonna have to spend more time studying, you have to spend more time talking to tutors, you have to spend more time with your nose in the book. There's nothing wrong with that, but just know it's gonna be a little bit harder because at the end of the day, there's only so much time in a day. And so if you're spending time having to maybe catch up on a certain course that you're struggling with, then that's time you could have been spending beefing up your resume, doing a mock trial or moot court that the genius who is throwing IQ points my way is doing. But there's, again, nothing wrong with that. You're gonna be on your own path. You're gonna have to make that determination for yourself. And also keep in mind that law school is a little bit of a different type of learning style. So even if high school and college was a breeze for you, law school is gonna be much different. I remember maybe the first 3 months of law school, I didn't know what language everyone was speaking. It was just over my head and I was having to play catch up, and that was not how college was, and that was definitely not how high school was for me. So just keep in mind, whenever you get there, it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve for everyone, unless you've been just born and bred to be a lawyer from day one, and in that case, good for you. But for most of us out there, us normal folk, we are gonna have to have that adjustment and analyze whether or not we're gonna have to spend more time during the day studying and doing whatnot. But also keep in mind that as you progress through law school, things get a little bit easier, you catch on a little bit quicker, you start understanding concepts a little bit just easier, and it's not as bad. But again, depending where you are in that spectrum, that'll determine how hard law school is for you. This fourth factor is my favorite factor, and it's enjoyment. You need to keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to enjoy every second of law school in order for law school to be easy. In fact, what you really need to do is just enjoy most of law school. It needs to just slightly kind of tip above that scale, preponderance of the evidence. If you don't know what that means, you'll learn, and I'll also post a video about that later on. But that's a little bit of a side note. When it comes to enjoyment, things are much easier if you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the growth, if you enjoy the difficulty. So if something is hard, but you enjoy it, it really doesn't seem that hard. If something's hard and you don't enjoy it, let's just use an example that applies to 99% of everyone. If you're trying to study a tax book and you're reading it and it's absolutely miserable and you would rather do anything else, then you're not gonna really enjoy that process, and it's gonna be like pulling teeth. And that's gonna make that particular class, like tax, hard. Unless you are that type of person who enjoys tax, Larry, and then things would be much, much easier. But the concept with this particular factor is whether or not you already know in advance what kind of lawyer you wanna be. If you don't, that's fine, don't worry about it, because I can pretty much guarantee you there will be a subject that you enjoy. Now the question is, how many subjects do you enjoy? And to what degree do you enjoy them? And that will make law school much easier. You'll end up picking up things much more quickly, and just overall your law school experience will be much better. A lot of muches and a lot of explanation going on there. So I'm gonna keep this one relatively short. Let's go ahead and move on to the next factor. This final factor is motivation, and this is a very important one because everyone wants to do well in law school, everyone wants to pass the bar, everyone wants to become a practicing lawyer, and everyone enters law school with a different story, a different background, so they all have different motivations to a degree. Some people want to be like Harvey Specter on Suits. Some people, they have a dad or a mother or both that are lawyers, they want to be like them. Others, they may be the first lawyer in their family, and it doesn't really matter what motivates you as long as you have something that does, because there are going to be moments where you're not really enjoying a certain aspect of law school, or maybe you're having to read because you're having to read a lot. And let's just say you're having to read a tax book. Ugh. And everyone else is going and enjoying life, and you're stuck inside, maybe in the library, maybe even outside. And it's not gonna be fun. You're gonna be seeing all these people having fun all around you, but you're gonna try and be disciplined. And in order to be able to push through those lulls in law school, that needs to be a shirt, lulls in law school. then you need to tap into that motivation. You need to tap into that fire, and that'll keep you moving forward, and that'll keep you focused, and then you'll have that perspective. So the question is, do you check off these 5 factors? If you do, leave that in the comments. I'd love to see the results of these 5 factors. If you have any questions, be sure to also leave those in the comments. And speaking of motivation, I hope you're motivated to click that like button, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.